Hi, everybody. Thank you for stopping by Living To Do's review of Married at First Sight, Season 16, Episode 7, Jamaican Me Crazy. So this is the last day of the honeymoon for the couples. They have a final dinner and then they're off to their shared apartment. And this episode really didn't give much. In fact, Shaquille and Kirsten gave absolutely nothing. One thing I wanted to tell you is that Lindy and Miguel from last season, they're divorcing. They're no longer together. So I don't think we had any couples that survived last season now, but they're no more. And I had more to say about Lindy and Miguel than I had for Shaq and Kirsten this episode. So on to the next. Okay, the next couple will be Gina and Clint. Well, it seems that Clint and Gina got together and talked, and he apologized to her for the comments he made about that he had dated slender women and athletic women before he got matched and married Gina. That was great. And afterwards, I guess he needed to vent a little bit because then he went and he talked to a couple of the guys, which was Eris and Chris, about his situation, what went down. They talked about him apologizing, that he did apologize to Gina for the comments that he made. You know, he's told them how was talking about him not in the best light, calling him a ginger, light skin, and a redhead. He just seemed like he just needed to vent to people, I guess, or create a scene. And Eris shared that he thought Gina was small. You know, he didn't think that she was a thick girl, a big girl. And he goes, and then Clint said, he didn't either, and that, he didn't mean it that way. He was just trying to open up about himself and what he has done in the past. And then Eris, he suggested maybe it was your delivery and how you did it. And so later that night, they're on their last dinner, on their honeymoon. They all go as a group and they go out and eat dinner, and that's where Clint stood up in front of everybody with the encouragement of Eris telling him to stand up to apologize. Now I thought to myself, would Eris stand up to apologize? He doesn't seem like he would do that, but he was telling Clint to stand up. Clint stood up to the group and apologized for his comments. And Kirsten said, you were strong and wrong with that. And Nicole said, well, if Gina is willing to give you a second chance, that they will also give him a second chance. And, to support them as a couple. Gina, she wants to go around and find out from everybody if they would rate their marriage so far after a week of a honeymoon. You should rate high, but she wants to know from each couple, what would they rate their relationship thus far? And Dom and Mac, they rated their relationship so far a 7.5 out of 10. I guess that's fair. Chris and Nicole, Chris rated it 8.2, and Nicole swears up and down she would have said the same thing, 8.2, because they're actually getting along very well. As people just meeting, they seem to click better than everybody else. Shaq and Kirsten rated their relationship marriage so far as a 7, and Kirsten says, we're the same person, Yeah, you just might be the same person. in the way you might perceive him to be. Country Southern Belle. Kind of getting those vibes. Clint and Gina rated their relationship, and Clint gave it a 5. Actually, Gina gave it a 5, and Clint gave it a 5.5. But then it came down to Eris and Jasmine. And Eris said a 7.5 or an 8. And actually, Jasmine said 7.5 or an 8. And then Eris said a 7. So after dinner, I guess they get the couples in their little confessionals where they broke off and spoke about the dinner. And Clint said, not Clint, it was McKinley. He said that somebody's lying. And then they ran the clip from the previous episode where I think Eris gave the relationship a 3 or 4 or 4 or 5. And he didn't keep that same energy at the group in front of Jasmine. He's lying. Chris asked Eris at the dinner if he could see himself falling in love with Jasmine. And, you know, he's not given a clear-cut answer and stalling and not being assertive with his answer. And Chris and Nicole get into a confessional after dinner, and he thinks that Eris is just not ready for marriage. So that was their dinner, and they're off to Nashville to their shared apartment. So on to the next couple. Sticking with Eris and Jasmine, their last day on their honeymoon, Eris gets up and he works out and he has his me time, and he's talking in the little confessional or off the in the small camera that he's feeling guilty because he's not showing any interest in Jasmine. It's making him feel guilty, and why is he not showing any interest? You know, from what he says in past episodes, you know, Jasmine is just not his type. He's looking for a bigger girl. He's looking for basically an LA face and an Oakland booty. And he's all hung up on looks when this process is about getting to know somebody if you can connect on a deeper level. So he's missing the whole point in this experiment. Later, he has breakfast with Jasmine, and he doesn't look her in the face. He's always like he's unable to make eye contact with her, but he tells her as they're eating that he's getting friendly vibes from her. Then they cut into a confessional where Jasmine is saying that she's not here to be nobody's friend, basically. Though she also says that, you know, his family has talked about him, telling her that she needs to pull things out of him. So she, I guess, sees this as one of the things that she needs to work on, pulling things out of him. So she's going to give him grace. She's always compromising for this dude. They talk about how they want their apartment to look when they get back to Nashville. And he says he wants, you know, people to come to his house, and when they walk in, that they know that a black person lives in the house. He likes black art. He wants that. They finally get to their apartment, and even the apartment number 313 means something to him. It was also the area code where his father lived in Chicago. And they have a nice place. All the couples, of course, they all seem to kind of have a very similar type of apartment. They go around looking at their cupboard space, closet space, drawer space. And they're looking in the bathroom, and he's already picking out, without letting her decide first what she might want in the bathroom. He picked out 2 areas that and she can have the rest. And she's not to open one particular drawer. He's just very bossy. And he talks about inappropriate things, in a way. He wants to know if, about pooping together. And where she's like, ugh, why would you bring this up? He thinks that couples are not really in love unless they share very intimate parts of their daily routine. And I guess it's off-putting to hear that. He's always saying these things that are inappropriate on camera. And she's like saying, ladies, don't do that, basically. Like, yeah, she'll be doing that alone, and she doesn't even want you to know when she does it. So don't worry about it. Him and his house rules. He was just too much. They get a shot of the two eating, standing up. I don't know why they couldn't sit down and eat something. And as they're eating, standing up, he's like dancing around. And she's talking to him, and he's not even listening to her when she's talking. They're standing right there. He's putting food in his mouth and moving around like he hears music somewhere. And she's like, I'm going to slap you. I mean, he has some childish ways, and I don't know, you would have to, it takes a lot to get used to that. Poor Jasmine. They go over to Eris's house. They do that every year. And so we see only a couple of the couples do that. And he has a nice house. They have the front of the house. It's a house. He has a gym when you walk in, one of the first rooms you see. They go upstairs. He has a man cave. He doesn't usually let girls there. And he goes into his bedroom where he has a lot of shoes. They're in the protective boxes. He's a sneakerhead, apparently. So I thought, my God, it's a nice house. Who lives there with him? Does he live there by himself? But then he says something weird that would make me think he didn't live there or he didn't own the place. He says after all this is over, like the experiment, that they can get a place of their own. And I'm thinking, so you're renting maybe. I guess he doesn't own that place because that's a nice house. Why couldn't she just move on in there if it's just you there? And then Jasmine was saying how she's going to give up a certain more space in the closet for his shoes because she sees how he really takes care of them and he's meticulous with them. And once again, she's given up something for him. She's making all the sacrifices, compromise. I don't know what he's ever done for her in that area. If someone's not pleasing to his eyes immediately or not giving him sex immediately, he kind of writes them off, or so it seems so far. And what I've seen of Eris collectively in all the episodes, I'm just liking him less and less. He's just, a little gnat, a nuisance. He's a little irritant. That's what he is. Gets on my nerves. Okay, on to the next couple. Okay, the next couple is Dominique and McKinley. Basically, McKinley just doesn't do it for Dominique. He's a complainer. She doesn't quite like his attitude. Attitude is something, if you have a good attitude, she becomes more sexually attracted to you. And he complains about too much. He feels he's being critiqued too much. I think she's trying. From what I see so far, I haven't seen her be immature. She's been mature enough to discuss her concerns with the progress of their relationship. And he's communicating back to her. And he is trying. It's just, they're just not meshing up. And it's basically his fault. And they get home. They go to his place where he's currently residing at his friend's parents' house. He lives in the basement. He's been there 5 months. He's originally from Michigan. Apparently he went to California. Now he's in Nashville. I'm so sorry. Her name is Dominique. Dominique feels a certain way about that. She feels blah. It doesn't excite her that her husband doesn't own a home. She's apparently used to men who own their own place. And we all know that for the history of MAFS, if you have no home, then you have no spouse on decision day. It's just been a running pattern with this. So this doesn't look good. He has a nomad spirit. He's wandering all around. She's not going to leave Nashville anytime soon. This man doesn't have ties to Nashville, so she's afraid that's going to be a problem in their relationship. They are in the apartment. They're drinking a little wine. You get the feeling that she's just playing along for right now, but she doesn't have a sense of a connection with him. I don't see them connecting. But that was really it for them. Unfortunately, you see the demise of this relationship, right from definitely right when they get home. On to the next. Okay, the final couple is Nicole and Chris. Nicole and Chris, they had a scene where Chris was crying and Nicole comes to console him. We find out that he's crying because he's been told by production that their new shared apartment that they'll get to in Nashville will only allow 2 dogs, and between them they have 3. He has 2 and she has 1. So he is crying, literally bawling his eyes out for the thought of having to be separated from his dogs. He doesn't even know what to do. And the scene I thought was weird. Why do you create a scene where this grown man is mic'd up crying about these dogs that he will be separated from for about 8 weeks? And he can't handle that. We didn't even get that from Justin from last season and his dog, when he had to take his dog away, be sent away. In fact, this dog had to move out of state. And Justin was the biggest crier we've ever seen on MAFS, and he was affected by it, but we never did see him cry about it. His mood definitely changed, but not like Chris. Chris is, I don't know if these are his support animals or what, but why do they make guys do that? I mean, and all the dog issues, every year there's a dog issue, and a big part of me, I'm sick of it. Do something else. But then again, it shows how they could possibly have conflict with an animal and how they would resolve it. But overall, I don't want to see anybody with animals. Just give me a couple with no animals. Let's do something else. I'm just bored with the animals. With Nicole, she really wants to make her marriage work. So she has called up her dad kind of frantically, asking him if he could take the dog. And apparently her dad lives out of state. I think he lives in Florida. And they're willing to work something out. Nicole has found a resolution for their issue to make her marriage work, to make her husband happy. She's compromising because that would be her dog that she won't be able to be with for 8 weeks. Big compromise on her part. She and Chris are the only couple I think that will work, and they're giving it a chance. Chris should have stepped it up a little bit more here. Does he not have family? He could not make arrangements for his dog. Later, they get back to Nashville and they're in their apartment. And Nicole asked Chris, if it was decision day, what would your decision be? And he said he would say yes. And later, Chris gave a very sincere thank you to Nicole for being there for him in his issue with the dogs, and making it a way that they can compromise, or maybe she compromise, or that they can carry on with their living arrangements. And he thinks it just brought them closer. Well, you got what you wanted, so you should be happy. But I'm sure he would have done it for her. He just seems like that kind of person. So that was pretty much it for this episode. Well, I guess we're going to get to the big breakup maybe next week. Pastor Cal will be visiting with the couples and stirring up stuff, I see. So we'll have to see. But this episode, very, very dull. But hopefully more exciting things to come. But that is it for now. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. And I thank you in advance. But I gotta go because I got living to do. Bye.